Good morning, everyone, and welcome in this shortened version of the presentation which I gave during the Umbraco Spark this year. If you're interested in the full content of the presentation, all the slides, and the bigger full version of this topic, go and find it on my slides.com profile. But today, shortened version, a quick look on the modern web performance testing. So let's go. You've probably seen this screen or this icon more than once, and in our shared pursuit to push the web to do more, we are running into a common problem, which is performance. And sites have more features than ever before, and many of them struggle from achieving a high level of performance to serve a journey to variety of users using different connections, different networks, different devices, and so on. And those issues vary. They are very different. Sometimes there are just slow and small delays, and sometimes they are making our websites and our applications totally unavailable and not working, sometimes even both. Someone wise said, it was Eleni Rachitsky from Airbnb, said that downtime is even better for a BTC web services than slowness, because slowness makes your hate the service when downtime, you just try again. And that's a very wise and interesting point of view. And I totally agree with it, because we want our users to interact meaningfully with our products. If we are building a blog, we want people to read this blog. If we are building the e-commerce solution, we want those people to buy stuff from our site. And performance here plays a major role in the success, but also in the failure of this potential online venture. And it all created a huge movement, which can be found under the Perf Matters hashtag. If you will go to Twitter and filter the results based on this hashtag, or if you will find the subreddit exactly titled like that, you'll find a lot of interesting resources about performance, web development, and so on. So why it matters? Because it helps business, for example, to retain users. Big players such as Pinterest, BBC, or even Google discovered it a while ago already. And for example, in the Google's research, they found that 53% of mobile sites visit were abandoned if page took longer than 3 seconds to load. And I know a lot of websites and applications which loads a lot longer than that. So it helps to retain users on the first place. Second is again about business, about money. It can improve conversion. And in the e-commerce studies, again done by big players such as Amazon or Walmart, they found that, for example, 100 milliseconds of latency in their process cost them 1% in sales. And I don't even want to imagine how big is 1% of the Amazon sales or Walmart sales. So it really matters. It really matters and really helps a lot. If you are interested how it can help your business or your clients, find this tool. It's called Think with Google Impact Calculator, and compare with the industry, compare with the leaders and other companies which are doing the same. You can input some of the data, such as the site speed, monthly average visits, conversion rate, and average order cost, and it will show you how much you can earn or lose if you will increase or decrease the site's performance or speed to load it up. A very, very great tool. You can put the different data, compare it, send it to your stakeholders or anyone else interested, and yeah, just use it. When it comes to user experience and people, that's last, but in my opinion, the most important part of this whole situation and whole reasoning behind the performance, because especially in the recent times, we found that it's extremely important to reduce the number of data transfer across the web and across the world in general. We've seen Netflix and other streaming companies which were decreasing the amount of data being sent to allow everyone to access the content while we were sitting at homes and closed. So this chart, for example, shows the total kilobytes, sum of the total transfer in 2011 and in 2019. And you can see it constantly grows. And websites are bigger and bigger and bigger. And our role as developers is to reduce the time, or not only the time but also a cost, because for example when I'm traveling to UK, I'm paying for a roaming data, and it will reduce the amount of money, and also allow business to serve me this content, because in the other way I wouldn't access it. And when I was hearing that, when I was discussing about performance, it was always obvious for me, but I observed that it's not that obvious for everybody else. So I started from analyzing some studies and data, and I found a really interesting quote from Peter Drucker, who said that if you can't measure it or something, you can't improve it. And if I'm a perfectionist, I always want to improve something. So if I want to improve my web solutions or the speed of it, I need to measure, I need some metrics, and I need to stop guessing. And that's the first point, first advice for everybody wanting to become better in performance. Just stop guessing. We don't want to say for our clients that we don't know if this website will work under this traffic. We don't want to say that we will increase their bounce rate or something like that. We don't want to use languages like that. We want to have data. We want to have input and output, compare it, and just use it. So stop guessing. Second advice when it comes to performance is about treating performance as a feature. Dedicate time to work on it. Estimate efforts required to improve it constantly, and keep it in the loop, because performance is not a luxury these days. It is a feature of the applications. And when we are speaking about loop, it can be applied on various stages of our applications. In the development, where we can debug, improve, validate, and test our solutions. Then on UAT or staging environments, when we can test, validate, and decide, yeah, that's exactly what we want to deliver, or maybe not, maybe come back and make it better. And in the production, because that's not the end of the road, we need to monitor, we need to identify issues, and then understand why some behaviors are present, why the real users, why the real applications are behaving like that, and then come back and repeat this whole loop. So it can be really, really close into 4 steps: build, measure, optimize, and monitor. So why we are not doing it? There are 4 simple results why we are not doing it. First is probably arithmophobia or something like that. We are scared, and it was a true story. It happened to me. I thought that statistic, metrics, graphs, and charts are just scary, and we are just afraid of that. And hopefully, I will show you that it's not that scary and not that hard to understand that. Second reason, obviously, money. We don't have budgets for that. We don't want to how to convince stakeholders or product owners, but in this case, I like to treat it as a kind of insurance. And if we are paying up front and we are having our head free of concerns, or we are feeling just safer, it will work or it will be handled. It's better than keeping money in the pocket for failures or fires after the delivery. So that's really important. Third reason is because we don't know how, and that's why I'm here telling you about some tools and hints how to start. And the last but not least, it's a point of view where we are thinking that this is all right, it will be better, we will refactor it someday. We are treating life as a roller coaster, and we want emotions, and we want to deal with the real issues, and that's the worst probably attitude here, because it's not like that. If we won't be treating performance as a feature, we will never deliver a high, efficient, and very stable and prepared for the big traffic websites or solutions, which are maybe not just websites. So what is the solution for that? And it's really simple. We just need to be pragmatic and focus on something first, then learn and understand why something works like that, how to measure it, and how to achieve the goals which we need to set up at the beginning. And the goals, we need to just establish them, say that, yeah, that's enough, that's something what we are aiming for, and then it's about understanding also the depths in business, because if you want to translate it into the language which is the impact-based language, so how big impact, how much profit we can deliver or save when we will be introducing some of the features, we won't be doing it correctly. And my favorite point of perceptions is to prevent rather than solve, and thinking about it as an insurance rather than react to real issues when we are in the wild already. How to do it? So how to do it is to start simple, finding this focus on issues. And it's sad for me to say that because I'm a backend developer, but most of the issues are usually closed in the front end area of the applications, and it's extremely visible and extremely exposed directly for the user's interactions, because the front end is the part which they are seeing. So if the backend behaves a little bit slower, or maybe server responds in 400 milliseconds, not 200 milliseconds, that's usually fine. But what's going on next is the thing what matters the most in most of the cases, unfortunately, because when user load increases, and when there is a high traffic website or high performance website or application, backend starts to matter more and more, and even more than frontend at some point, because if server doesn't respond with the data, frontend cannot do anything with that. So first step is to identify that and start somewhere. So if you are seeing that your application is behaving slow on frontend, start from measuring frontend. When it comes to measuring frontend, Lighthouse reports are built in the browser. You can open the development tools, click on the audit tab, start and generate report. And I've done it, for example, for Umbraco website a while ago, and it shows us the data and colors, and it's sometimes obvious what's wrong. The performance is just crying for some attention here. And if you want to go deeper and understand what's happening there, we are just clicking to learn more. And Google has an amazing documentation with a set of tips how to improve in every area and metric, and they are sharing a lot of resources about those metrics, new metrics, the most important ones. And also it means a lot because Google measures it as well for us, and increases or decreases positions of the products or the website based on the speed of it being working. So start here, start from understanding if there is something to fix or to improve, sometimes with the really small efforts. Then we can just dive into the backend. And in Umbraco solutions, we have a mini profiler from Stack Overflow built in already. So we can just attach some of the query strings, change the application configuration to debug, and see how it behaves. Mini profiler is an amazing tool. It can track not only the code which is tracked and traced by the application itself. We can assign and place our own metrics there and measurements. And obviously, we can see there are some reds maybe there. Go deeper, see what's happening there. Why this SQL query is performed 10 times when the site loaded just a small module maybe. Entry points to fix something in the later phases. Then we can start improving our code. But we have some metrics, we have some input data. Now we are doing what we love the most, improving the code, because good performance starts with good code, really. And if we will establish the best practices, not the best practices, our own good practices, let's say, at the beginning, we can then improve it and make our code better from starting position and avoid some issues later. And in our team, we've done a combination of Roslyn analyzers, style analyzers, and config. And we've placed the shared configuration across our developers. And thanks to that, we have a static code analysis performed when we are writing code. So we see the obvious issues. We can fix the obvious issues already in our development environment, local environment, and just do it, commit our code with those fixes already applied. And the configuration is really basic. We will be sharing some blog posts about how to do it. 3 files, rule sets shared across the team, our library, which we are sharing between the projects, and it highlights the issues for our developers in every project at the very beginning. You can also use other tools like ReSharper, for example, or any other analysis which are doing the same work, and they are sometimes efficient or less or more efficient than other tools which I've mentioned. And you can see the obvious issues which are highlighted by the IntelliSense and code analysis in Visual Studio or any other environment which we are using. Great addition to the ReSharper. My favorite plugin for ReSharper is Heap Allocation Viewer, which allows us to highlight local object allocations, all the boxings, delegates, and stuff like that, enclosures, and it shows where our code is exposed to some potential issues with the things which I've mentioned earlier. Really cool stuff, and we can go to the position where we have 0 all the time, but we are obviously not that usually not that experienced or not that performance oriented than like, for example, Stack Overflow, because they are even refactoring their internal methods to be 0 allocation or allocation free, using new fancy keys on the block such as in keywords, ref keywords, and span of t's to just reduce the memory consumption and also performance around it when they're writing a low level C# code. how it can help. Small improvements. A great example is this loop, which performed the operation in almost 3 minutes at the initial stage. And there is a method which is doing something on the big abstract object collection. And in the next slide, we can see that the in keyword, which helped reduce the reference between those objects and applications, reduced this number to 17 seconds, which is amazing. And those metrics and those numbers are here because we measured those things. And only then, when we have again results after and before, we can go deeper. We can use tools like application performance management tools such as Dynatrace, which allows us to go really deep in every method, in every execution, in every application path, to just see what's going on there, what's happening inside of our code, what's happening in the SQL queries, what's happening everywhere basically in our application. But those are big, massive tools which are really helpful when we are in the position where this really matters, but only then at this stage. We can always take a Taboola approach and install it on our own. There are some templates which I will be sharing soon with the templates to install the locust clusters on the Azure container instances. You can install it in the small steps, and this will run the locust open source environments to load test our application, to perform some reports, to do exactly what we wanted to do with our application. It's really handy and cool. We can also use tools like benchmark.net or nbench to do some kind of benchmarking on the level of C# code. And together with Callum, we've been doing this talk on Code Garden 2 years ago, when we showed how easy it is to set up benchmarks for some of the methods, to compare, to get data, to get results, to see why our methods are performing better and where and when, and then decide maybe we can choose this implementation because it's just more efficient or something like that. Umbraco does it. Umbraco has some benchmarks in the Umbraco Tests Benchmarks project, but it's still not enough to be sure that all of the decisions were made correctly. So it's worth writing benchmarks. And if you want to contribute, maybe today even, just write some benchmarks for some methods or different ways of achieving the same goals within the Umbraco code, for example, and contribute and help Umbraco to become better. And if you have knowledge or need or a hunger to do more, you can really get low. Use tools such as Purview, Ants, or WinDBG to see all the memory allocations or the stacks and heaps and stuff like that. Go in the flowcharts and that do a really low-level performance investigation. But it's not for every human being. You need to be really data-oriented or really in the need of understanding low-level, deep, crazy things which are happening there to do that. And I highly recommend that if you're curious enough. And at the end, you can automate. You can use those tools, use the knowledge and data, and just make it as a part of your process. And I love this part the most because I'm a huge fan of automation. We can use tools like SiteSpeed.io, for example, which gathers a lot of free and open source tools, such as Selenium, Visual Metrics, Skeleton, and some others. And it allows us to install it using the Docker as a part, for example, as a continuous integration pipeline or continuous deployment pipelines, and just perform those tests, deliver results, metrics, dashboards, leaderboards, and stuff like that, which we can show to our stakeholders, product owners again. There are various other tools such as BlazeMatter, which are doing exactly the same, running on the web. So you can give the access to the dashboard, see the performance metrics and gatherings done there, and also attach it to the part of your deployment pipeline. So your deployments, for example, to production or to staging environments always triggers the performance test. Performance tests are exposed in the cloud platform, and your stakeholders and product owners can see the data and graphs there without asking you how application performs from and when maybe performance decreased or increased in the recent situation. My favorite tool is K6. It's previously low impact. It's open source. It has a cloud offering and over 1 million installations right now. And you can define the test scenarios there using this type of declarative language. You can define the different scenarios, durations, stages, tests, and just perform them again as a part of the build pipeline or as a part of deployment pipeline. And you can do whatever you want to do with those tests, perform different stages, different levels of testing, and just gather the output somewhere in your application. It's really easy to configure it like that as a part of your Azure DevOps, for example, pipelines. And then you have the small steps, small informations about checks, and information, what happened, what's wrong, what's bad, and it can be also pushed to the cloud, so you can give the access to someone who wants to see only the graphs, only the data, and just maybe analyze it from the analytic perspective rather than development perspective. Speaking about Lighthouse, there are also amazing tools and amazing resources to include the Lighthouse reports as a part of the continuous integration pipeline. And again, Azure DevOps, configuration of the Lighthouse extension, and information from the Lighthouse as a part of, for example, pull request pipeline. We are submitting pull request. Lighthouse is checking if it doesn't increase or decrease the performance of the application of the specific websites, for example. And you have the check results as a part of the build pipeline or deployment pipeline again. This extension, which is the Lighthouse check action, it also allows to download the HTML reports. So you can download it, send it again via email to your team, and it's clear enough to see, okay, our application needs some love here or there. Same with the other outputs then. And after that, you can just sit down, grab some coffee, and observe. See the before and after results, detect not prevented degradations, detect other anomalies, and have fun, because fun is really important. Netflix does it really well. They've created a chaos monkey, the tool which randomly deletes or terminates virtual machines in their environment to see if they are prepared for recover scenarios and if they are still able to deliver stuff. So what you can do, you can create a red team in your organization, in your company, and red team is an independent group of people who are exposed to challenges in the organization to improve its effectiveness by assuming an adversarial role or point of view. So my example, junior developer with higher than usual permissions on Azure, for example, or advanced head of the development with a glass of whiskey on Fridays evening. They are really great red teams, and they can expose and show us some issues with our applications, which we need to address and avoid those issues in the future. Have fun with it. Avoid living with lag. And if you haven't seen this video on YouTube, just go and find it, how 100 milliseconds can impact your life. And in the summary, stop guessing, treat performance as a feature, start somewhere, start simple, then always measure and automate, observe, and have fun and learn. And not only from your mistakes, learn from other people, learn from books such as Pro.NET Benchmarking and Pro.NET Memory Management. It's an amazing book. I highly recommend it. Thank you, and find me and ask me any questions. I will be here. I will be on Discord. I will be in other locations. Go and play with the performance. Ask me any questions which you might have, and just, yeah, again, have fun during the rest of the hackathon, and cheers. See you on the next possible occasion.